Overfishing threatens whole species, as well as the people who depend on them for food and their livelihoods.
3 billion people rely on fish as an important source of protein.
The problem is that areas where they live are so overfished now that they're not able to make a living.
And the recent decline in the local fisheries due to destructive fishing methods and overfishing is forcing the country to import catch.
Are you familiar with the topic of overfishing?
I am familiar with overfishing. I know that it happens throughout the world and not in just the United States.
Did you know that there's been a 90% decline in the population for bluefin tuna?
I didn't know that there was a 90% decline in bluefin tuna, but I did know that bluefin tuna are targeted and are susceptible to overfishing because it's a high-priced food delicacy.
What are your opinions on that, or is there any action that should be taken?
I think federal dollars, worldwide dollars should be put into the protection of the bluefin tuna. It doesn't have to be taken away in terms of a fishery, but keeping fishermen worldwide from targeting young spawning bluefin or selective forms of actually fishing for them should be monitored and controlled.
I understand you spent nearly 3 months on a commercial fishing boat. What do they do to manage and regulate overfishing?
Yeah, I spent almost 3 months on a commercial fishing boat in the Bering Sea. We were fishing for Alaskan blue cod or Pacific blue cod, and they actually do a pretty good job on the Bering Sea. On our boat, they actually had a National Marines fishery agent that was on the boat the entire time to make sure that we weren't taking any byproduct or fish that we weren't licensed to catch, fish other than the blue cod. And we also had quotas that were established so that when the number of fish that were set in the quota was reached, then the fishery was cut off and communicated to all fishermen in the fishing grounds that it was no longer allowed to fish.
Awesome. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Oh, hey, didn't see you there. Now, after talking to some former commercial fishermen, let's see what the local fishermen in the area have to talk about the topic of overfishing. Come on, let's go. Don't be shy, come on. Alright, we're with Mike here down at the Cedar River, and we're going to ask him some questions about overfishing. So, Mike, what do you know about the topic of overfishing?
It's just a very complex issue. Can't really come up with a solution in 30 seconds or less, but I think that, in my view, one of the important things that people miss is that the fish that everything lives on, the small fish, no one seems to care about. The anchovies, the herring, the small fish are being taken by the billions. And everybody focuses on the big fish, the salmon, the tuna, the things that we all eat. But if those fish don't have anything to eat at the lower level, then it all dies.
Thank you very much, Mike.
Absolutely.
We're at the Cedar River here with Neil, and he's volunteered to interview with us. So Neil, what are your opinions on overfishing?
My general opinion is that it shouldn't happen. I think it's a big problem. I think it's a problem for now, and I think it's a problem for the future.
Definitely.
And it should be regulated. And I think wherever it happens, it's detrimental. I'm against farm-raised fish for multiple reasons. I think it ruins the native population and the strength of the native population. It's not healthy to the banks where they do it, to the shoreline where they do it. And whether they inject the farm-raised fish with a lot of antibiotics or things like that is negative and not something I want to do. So I think it should be regulated, and it should be regulated through a dialogue with commercial fishing, sport fishing, and international governments to control it. So as much as I like sushi, there should be a limit on it.
Right.
And I think it needs to be definitely controlled. I think it needs to be done in a responsible and a sustainable way. And I'm also against mining that destroys native populations of fishing, like the Pebble Mine up in Alaska.
Thank you very much, Neil.
You're welcome. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Yep. All right. Thanks, Mr. Howell. Oh, jeez. Gotta quit sneaking up on me. All right, now after hearing from some local fishermen, let's see what the professionals have to say about the topic.
Problem that has really accelerated dramatically over the last 50 years with the industrialization of global fisheries. Today there's really no place on the planet anymore that's not impacted by the effects of fishing.
Most animals swimming around in the surface waters are interested in those baited hooks, so take the hooks and subsequently get caught, and they may or may not be what the fishermen are looking for, and things like leatherback turtles or some marine mammals can simply get entangled in that line of gear. There are more selective ways of fishing. There's a lot of waste that goes on out there.
We have comprehensively studied the decline and depletion of large predator populations, sharks, tuna and billfish, large groundfish such as cod and halibut, even whales, pinnipeds, manatees, everything there, large predators in the ocean in general. What we found,
the overfishing is partly due to the industrial fishing practices we employ today, but also it's due to the demand for shark fin. In the last 10 or 15 years, the demand for shark fin soup has spread from places like Hong Kong and Singapore to Taiwan, and then now to mainland China. We believe now fins from up to 73 million sharks a year are being used for shark fin soup. Well, I think perhaps the saddest irony of all is that sharks, probably one of nature's most successful species, they've been on the planet around 400 million years. I don't think there's any large animal that's been around that long. And yet I really do believe if we don't do something very soon, we could lose entire species in our lifetime. It's that close, and I think in some of these cases you get to a point where the population is so low it just can't reproduce and it just collapses, and we're pretty close to that. What we're seeing happen to sharks is happening to many other species. They're at the top of the food chain, they reproduce slowly, so unfortunately they may be amongst the first victims, but they're indicative of what's happening in our oceans, which is a wanton disregard for populations, for dynamics, the bycatch that they're involved in, where they're caught in other fisheries, the total waste that's going on.
Jeez, I'm starting to think you guys are doing this on purpose. Where was I? Oh yeah, that's right. So after hearing the professionals speak, we've come to the conclusion that if we really want to make a difference in overfishing, we need to prohibit the amount of fishing going on in the spawning areas. Because if fish can't reproduce, then there's going to be no fish left to fish. Well, there you guys are. I've been looking all over for you. So I've been thinking. You kids are sitting in your seats right now thinking, I don't care about overfishing. This does not affect me whatsoever. But when it comes down to it, if you really think about it, if there's no fish, there's no future. This is Matt Gray, signing off.